Rossana here, and I've got a video that I've been really excited to share with you guys. It is about sleep training. Yay! I know right off the bat a bunch of you are gonna be like, ooh, sleep training? I don't know about that. Because a lot of people think sleep training and they're like, oh, you let your baby cry itself to sleep. You're a terrible, lazy, selfish mother. I would never do that. Okay. You do you, that's fine. But there is so much more to sleep training than just throwing your baby in a crib and letting them figure it out. In our experience, sleep training was like the best decision we ever made. So I know a lot of people think sleep training means getting your baby to sleep through the night, but I just want to squash that right there. It is not getting your baby to sleep through the night. It is teaching your baby to become an independent sleeper. In this video, I really want to talk about three things: why we decided to sleep train, how we sleep trained, what it has been like after sleep training. Spoiler alert, it's been great! Let me just say a little disclaimer. Every baby is different. Every family, unit, and situation is different. This is just our experience with sleep training Hazel, and something that I just wanted to share with everyone, especially those who are like, sleep training, no way. Really want to get you to just broaden your mind about it and just be a little bit more open-minded to it. And also for people who are like weary-eyed, maybe it's time for you to sleep train your baby, I want this video to also help you. So along the way, I also want to share some things that I learned about sleeping and babies and sleep training that I didn't know before and that I kind of wish I knew. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. First off, why did we decide to sleep train? So let me just rewind back to when Hazel was first born and just a little itty bitty newborn fresh from the womb. One of the things that we watched was The Happiest Baby on the Block, and it really talks about the concept of the fourth trimester and how babies are still getting acclimated with the outside world because they'd spent 9 to 10 months kind of just cramped up in the little womb. So Dr. Harvey Karp, who wrote Happiest Baby on the Block, kind of talks about the 5 S's in helping your baby to sleep, and it's basically just like mimicking being in the womb. So there's swaddling them tightly, which helps them again feel like they're in the womb. There's shushing them, because when they're in the womb they hear like your blood flow, they hear the heartbeat. Also swaying and swinging and all that stuff, just moving around so they're used to movement, not staying still. And also sucking. You know, there are some babies that suck their thumb when they're still in the womb, and it just gives them comfort and it soothes them. So after watching this DVD, we did as much of the 5 S's that we could. We rocked her to sleep, we swung her, we shushed in her ear, we tried to give her the pacifier, but she was never really into it, but she really loved my nipples. I actually discovered an amazing super swaddle technique that is on YouTube. I will link it in the description below. I actually discovered this technique when Hazel was about 7 weeks old, and so I did the super swaddle technique, and I swear to you, that night she slept 7 hours. And after that, she slept on average 7 hours straight. And the schedule around this time was kind of just haphazard. You know, babies that young are sleeping most of the day. So one thing that I knew to do was to get her used to daytime, and daytime being awake time, and then nighttime being quiet sleep time. And that was something that I didn't know when I was pregnant, but did learn along the way. So once the sun went down, we kind of were quiet, no noise, just so she knows that it's nighttime and time to sleep. And then in the morning, once the sun was up, we would open all the windows, we'd be loud, we'd be talking, all that stuff. So that was kind of the schedule that we had going on, and it was kind of working well. She would go to sleep around 9, 10 o'clock. We would do the super swaddle technique, and she would sleep like 7 hours or so, and it was great, and I wasn't totally dying.
And then the 4-month sleep regression hit.
Basically, the 4-month sleep regression was horrible. She went from sleeping on average 7-hour stretches to waking up every 45 minutes to an hour. There was one night in particular, I remember looking at the clock and it was like 12:15 a.m. and then she'd wake up, I'd nurse her, she'd go back to sleep, and then I would go to sleep, and then I'd wake up again because she was crying, and it was like 1:35, and I was like, what? And then again, go back to sleep, do that whole thing, and then I look up and it's 2:50, and I'm like, what? During that time, I was getting no sleep. My baby was getting no sleep. So I did everything in my power to get her to sleep. So I would rock her, I would shush her, I would nurse her. Sleep regression will happen to your baby. It's kind of inevitable. If you didn't experience that, then great. great, good for you. There are a lot of sleep regressions that your child's gonna go through. There's the 4-month sleep regression, the 8 to 10 month sleep regression. There's supposedly a 12-month sleep regression. Luckily, we have not experienced that yet. And then apparently there's an 18-month sleep regression. But the 4-month sleep regression is not a true regression. It actually changes the way your baby sleeps. Like I said, Hazel was sleeping like 7 hours straight, and then she went through her sleep regression, and after that, she would only sleep maybe 3 to 4 hours max. The 4-month sleep regression was horrible. I'm just gonna stress that again. It was definitely what made us really look at what we were doing in terms of helping her to sleep and getting her to sleep and getting her to stay asleep. I created a lot of bad sleep crutches. That's another thing that I learned. Sleep crutches are things that you do or you give to your baby that makes it so they need that in order to sleep. A few sleep crutches for us was nursing her to sleep and then rocking her to sleep and just waiting for her to fall asleep in my arms and then putting her into her bassinet. So she really got used to falling asleep with my nipple in her mouth and falling asleep in my arms. As you can imagine, during that time, I literally became the Walking Dead. Like, I was a zombie. Like, I couldn't think straight. I couldn't even walk. I couldn't stay focused. I couldn't really be a mom, and that's what was really scary for me. So this is kind of where I got to the why I wanted to sleep train, because there was one night in particular I remember holding her desperately, just trying to get her to fall back asleep, and I just felt like resentment towards her. As a mom, it's like a horrible feeling to look down at the child that you created and just resent them, but that is what I felt. I had just given birth, so I had a lot of emotions going on, you know, hormones and everything. I was just an emotional wreck, and not only that, I was resenting my child, and it was a horrible, horrible feeling. So it was in that moment that I decided that I was going to learn everything that I could about sleep training and sleep train Hazel. So now, how we decided to sleep train. So I basically just threw Hazel in a crib and just said, figure it out, girl. Just kidding. Okay, that is not at all what happened. So much went into the how. Like, I wish I could just say, I decided to do this method and I did it. Well, no, there was so much that I personally did to prepare her for sleep training. So one of the first things that I did was I joined an amazing Facebook group called Respectful Sleep Training /Learning, and I will link them below in the description. It is an amazing, 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 amazing group, well run by a team of great administrators. There is no trolling, there's no shaming, there's nothing like that. It's literally just a group of moms and dads who are just like, my baby's not sleeping for this reason, what can I do? And people just saying like, let's look at your schedule, let's do this, let's do that. So one of the main things that I learned that's like a huge like game changer for understanding your baby and their sleep is the whole concept of wake times. And this is something that I had no idea was like a thing, but again, if I could redo it and go back in time and tell myself like, oh, this is what you need to know, this is what I would tell myself. When a baby is really young, like a month or 2 months old, they have very short wake times. And this is the time that they're awake during the day. So around that time, I believe it's about 45 minutes to an hour that they'll be awake before they sleep again. So the younger a baby is, the shorter their wake time is. And as they get older, their wake time expands. It can expand to the point where they can be awake for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. This was like life-changing information. I had no idea when she was gonna sleep, when she was gonna wake up. You kind of figure they sleep a lot, which they do. But had I understood the concept of wake times more, I would have known, you know, when to expect for her to fall asleep and how long she would probably be awake for. Definitely look that up and get that chart, and it shows every month of a baby's life and what their wake times are, how long they should be sleeping, all that stuff. But also around this time, Hazel started to roll over, and once they start rolling over, you cannot swaddle them anymore because it is very dangerous, because if they're swaddled and they roll over, they might not be able to roll themselves back up and they'll just like suffocate. So the first step in getting ready to sleep train was getting her to sleep in her own room. So up until this point, Hazel had been sleeping in a bassinet next to our bed in our room. That was great, But it was, you know, I told my husband no TV, and he loves having the TV on. I said, we can't talk, we can't do anything. Like, I just had to be really quiet with her in the room. I'll admit, the first night that she slept in her own room, I like totally stared at the monitor and cried because it was hard. Another huge thing when it comes to sleep training is establishing a set bedtime routine. And this bedtime routine is what you do every night before bedtime that is the same thing, it's a routine. It just signals to your baby that it is time to sleep now. Around this time, when she was 4 months old, this was our bedtime routine that I came up with. We would give her a bath on days that we gave her a bath, and then I would bring her into her room, I'd put lotion on her body, put a diaper on, put her in a onesie, and then I would put her in her sleep sack. And then I'd give her her bottle, and however much it was, or I would nurse her. And then I'd read her a book, sing her a song, read her another book, and then I would like massage her feet and her legs and all that. And then I would pick her up, kiss her, put her down in her crib, kiss her goodnight, tell her goodnight, I love you. That would be the routine. So another huge thing about sleep training is you do not want to put your baby down to sleep when they're already asleep. You want to put them down drowsy but awake. So to really understand the necessity of sleep training, you kind of have to think about the way we as human beings sleep. So we as adults, we sleep through the night, but we actually do wake up multiple times and maybe not realize it, but we know how to put ourselves back to sleep. So sleep training for children and babies is essentially just teaching them to fall back asleep when they wake up from a sleep cycle. So that's why it's important to put them down when they're awake. That way they know how to fall asleep when they're in their crib. Because, I mean, when you think about it, you fall asleep in your bed and everything is great, and you wake up and you're just like somewhere else, I would start crying too. For Hazel and for a lot of children, they're used to falling asleep in our arms or in a, you know, rock and play, or with a bottle in their mouth or a nipple or a pacifier, and you put them into their crib and take all of those sleep crutches away. Then they wake up after a sleep cycle and they're like, oh my gosh, where's mommy's boob? Where's daddy's arms? Where's everything? And that's why they freak out. So the whole idea of sleep training and teaching them to become an independent sleeper is so that when they do wake up in the middle of the night after a sleep cycle, they know how to just put themselves back to sleep the way we as adults do. So now finally, the how we sleep train. There are so many different methods of sleep training. There's a lot of gentler ones, like the Sleep Lady Shuffle, where you kind of are in there in a chair and then you kind of like move like it out every night, like further away from the crib until you're like outside the room, and that takes a while. Firmer method, where you go in and check on them after a certain number of time, and the time increases as the night goes on. Because I felt like she was so ready, we decided to go with the more extreme method of extinction, and that's basically just crying it out. As horrible as that sounds, you're basically just doing the routine and then putting them down and leaving the room, and whatever happens, you don't go in. So another like pre-sleep training thing that we did was when we took her to her 4-month checkup with her pediatrician, I brought up the whole idea of sleep training to her, and she was very much on board. She gave me the okay to night wean too, because around 4 months you can totally night wean if you know they're growing right and everything. It really helps them to learn to just eat more during the day and sleep during the night. Leading up to the night we were gonna sleep train, I remember telling my husband like every night, I was like, I need you to be like a rock, okay? We're gonna put Hazel in her crib and she's gonna cry for hours, 2 hours maybe, who knows? But you have to make sure that I don't go in there and that you don't go in there and that we are just strong, that we let her cry so she can learn to become an independent sleeper. Finally, the night came where we were gonna sleep train her, and I did the whole routine. I put her down in her crib after saying goodnight, and I left the room, and yes, she cried. She cried and cried and cried. I ran downstairs to look at the monitor to watch her. She was crying, she was crying, she was crying, and then after 15 minutes, she went to sleep. My husband looked at me and was like, is she dead? I thought you said she was gonna cry for like an hour, and I was like, I thought she was going to do, but I guess she's sleeping. And she slept until 7:30 a.m. the next day. Suffice to say, I was right. Hazel was so ready to be sleep trained. So now what's it been like after sleep training? It's been amazing. I was really shocked by how quickly she took to it, and I really just felt like she was just trying to tell me like, I'm ready, mom, to just learn how to fall asleep on my own. Just give me the opportunity to do it. Just put me in my room where it is safe, where there's a noise machine and it's dark, and I will be fine. And so one thing that I will say is hard, that's probably for us was harder than actually starting sleep training, was dealing with the nap transitions. They will drop naps as they get older. She started with 4 naps and then she quickly went down to 3, and then after a while she went down to 2, and actually now she's only on 1 nap. So those transitional periods were hard, but still overall it has been great. My parents have noticed it, my in-laws have noticed it. They're just like, wow, Hazel is such a good sleeper. And how I know in my heart that sleep training is not at all hurtful to her. Before we sleep trained her, she would constantly be crying when she was tired, and I put her down for a nap and then she'd wake up crying. And I even thought to myself, like, what's the point of having a monitor? I don't need a monitor. I could just hear her crying. That's how I know she's awake. But luckily I didn't get rid of the monitor, because now when Hazel goes to sleep, she doesn't cry. And when she wakes up, she doesn't cry. And I have watched this with my own eyes, watching her on the monitor. Now when I put her down for a nap or for bed, she'll literally just roll over, because she's a stomach sleeper, and just go right to sleep and then sleep. And then when she wakes up, she kind of just flips over and just sits in her crib and just waits for me to come get her. I've seen her clapping her hands, playing with her feet. I've seen her laughing, smiling. She'll get up and walk around because she can stand in her crib now, and she'll just look around, and I've heard her babbling. She's basically just a happy, well-rested baby. And that's really what sleep training is all about. It's not me being a lazy mother and not wanting to deal with, you know, putting my child to sleep. It is me giving my child the opportunity to learn how to become an independent sleeper, and also for her to get the sleep that she needs. And these days, Hazel clocks in about 14 hours of sleep, which is right on target with her age. So it's super great, because now at night, once I do the routine and put her down to bed, I have the rest of the night to spend with my husband, and we can finally have our adult nights. We're not, you know, taking turns rocking her. We can actually be in our room and watch movies and be loud and do other like fun adult things. And pretty much everyone just comments on how good of a sleeper she is. Like, she just doesn't cry, guys. She sleeps. She's well rested. Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was a tad long, but I really wanted to cover like everything and just make it a very comprehensive like sharing of my experience with sleep training, because it's a pretty heavy topic. I mean, again, it was life-changing for us, and Hazel's getting all the sleep that she needs, and that's really all that matters. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Are you sleep training? Are you thinking about sleep training? Do you think I'm a horrible mother for sleep training? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Bye guys, thank you.